Something maybe to avoid is saying things like, watch my reaction video as the ethical way to not give ad revenue to the original.
Uh-oh! They literally shouldn't do exactly what Denims and Caseytron and Frogan did. I'm shocked that Taylor left this in. This is Taylor Lorenz's video about how copyright kills free speech. When Taylor's video went live, it was one of 3 videos about Ethan's copyright lawsuits that dropped within the same 24 hours. They all dropped within the same 24 hours. Again, could be a total coincidence. Could be a total coincidence, right? We have Chris Kunzler dropped one on July 10th at 4 p.m. Bad Empanadas dropped 2 hours after Chris's, 6 p.m. These are all Eastern times. We then have Taylor dropping hers the next morning at 7 a.m. And the one other interesting thing about these 3 videos is both Bad Empanada and Chris Kunzler referred to Ethan as having a psychosexual obsession with Hassan in the video that they dropped 3 days ago. And 1 month ago, here is Taylor Lorenz's tweet. My views on war in the Middle East have not changed since the early aughts, by the way. And I think Ethan's weird psychosexual obsession with Hassan is weird as hell. So for Taylor's video, she put out a video about the dangers of copyright lawsuits, how copyright kills free speech. Hope y'all took a pee-pee break. The second half of class is about to get started. Now remember what we just learned and see if there are ways that Taylor is engaging in unethical journalism in this video. Don't worry, I'm here to help.
A troubling shift is unfolding.
She's saying a troubling shift is unfolding in copyright lawsuits. And guess who it's about? It's about Ethan!
Through rigid restrictions on online speech. But now a troubling shift is unfolding. A prominent YouTuber has begun using copyright lawsuits to silence other creators' speech and comment.
A prominent YouTube influencer. She does not say Ethan's name in the entire video. Is this plausible deniability? So if someone says that she's talking about Ethan, she can say, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't say who it was, which is like so mean girl. So yeah, we already have that. We already have her not referring to Ethan by name.
Commentary on his content. I think this moment marks a potential turning point in online expression. These legal attacks that were once used almost exclusively by powerful media companies are now being leveraged by big content creators to attack smaller content creators that they don't like.
All right, let me just rewind and show you this. So throughout this video, Taylor's screenshots are problematic because they don't always relate to the topic at hand. Again, it's more of like her shoehorning stuff in. So I looked into it. And so this article about BVT was put out by Q News out of Australia. And the article itself doesn't really show any proof that the artist's content was actually flagged for copyright. It's implied, but there's no proof shown by the actual artist that it was done. It's more of a discussion about shadow banning, as is highlighted here. That the author is, or the artist took to her Instagram account or their Instagram account and was talking about the fact that they believe their YouTube content is being shadow banned by this copyright strike. And I gathered from, it was a very, very short article that there wasn't a ton of information in it, which check your sources, Taylor. So there wasn't a lot in the article. It was hard to see what was going on. The journalist didn't even show the Instagram stories that the article was about. They just quoted them. But how are we supposed to know that that was what any of it said? And they also talk about it being a coordinated attack on this creator for being queer. But that's just a theory that the artist and her fans have. It's completely unclear why they feel that way. And as far as like it getting flagged for copyright, they mention that some of the content in the video is similar to like another music video, but that's not really discussed at all. It's just very, it's barely an article. It's really not an article at all. And it even says in the article, this was like the one piece that was objective, is that YouTube's system for managing copyright is largely automated. So the artist and their fans are making an assumption when in all likelihood this was an automated copyright strike. But again, we don't know because the artist's information on the back end of their YouTube was not shared. So what I've gathered from this video is that there are instances when big corporations, conglomerates like music corporations or like Disney, when they are using copyright to stop people from criticizing them. But it's not at all what Ethan is doing. But we'll keep going. So during this video, we meet Meredith Rose, who is so smart. I recommend watching Taylor's full video just to hear Meredith chat, because she is a very smart woman who works in policy. She works in copyright policy. She has a JD from the University of Chicago, I believe. Maybe we can rewind it so we can see like her little, oh, I think it's not on here. Okay. So here's Meredith talking about the DMCA, and how copyright is being manipulated to get things removed from the internet that people don't like, but also don't have a claim to. Okay? Which is, again, not Ethan's situation.
What happened with the DMCA is, though it was designed to allow rights holders to, police the use of their copyrighted content online,
which is literally what Ethan is doing, right? Policing the use of his own copyrighted content online. He has the right to do that.
What it has ended up being in practice is a way for people to get things that are unflattering or that they don't like removed from the internet. So it's a
okay. Now let's talk about this one. This is the second time that Taylor used a screenshot of an article about Luigi Mangione merch being removed from the internet. Okay? It's also the second source that's completely unrelated to Ethan's use of the DMCA, right? Neither one have anything to do with YouTube. This one, or BVT did, but this one is completely unrelated. So this is one that's completely unrelated, and here's why it's unrelated. There is no world, this is from the actual article, there is no world in which the copyright of a watercolor painting of Luigi Mangione's surveillance footage is owned by United Health Group, as it quite literally has nothing to do with anything that the company owns. And you can see in the video,
to get things that are unflattering or that they...
She puts this right in the video. She puts this paragraph right in the video. So United Healthcare is trying to use DMCA to get content with Luigi Mangione's face on it removed from TeePublic. That's the context here. And she's trying to use that instance of a company that does not own the copyright claim to something, intimidating small creators to get things removed that make them look bad. She's using that and equating it to what's happening with Ethan, which is him deciding to sue people for stealing his content. It is completely unrelated. Completely unrelated. He uses the content. He is allowed to do with it what he will. Unlike United Health Group, who do not own the surveillance footage, they do not own the likeness of Luigi. And so their attempts to do a DMCA or a copyright strike, that is completely out of left field and has no grounds. That's terrible. That is something that shouldn't be happening. And that is something that this should be focusing on. But instead, she's trying to make it look like Ethan is doing something illegal by filing a DMCA. But again, she's highlighting the exact reason why it's not illegal. Like the cell phone is pretty insane. It is illegal to file a DMCA unless you have a good faith belief that you are the rights holder of the material in question. So Ethan is within his rights, within the law, to sue Denham's, Casey Tron, and Frogan for copyright infringement. Because he doesn't have a good faith belief. He is the owner of this stuff. Right? All right, let's see if there's anything else in this little bit before I go to the next one.
They don't like removed from the internet. So it's a very, very powerful tool, and it's just very widely abused.
Was there concern about abuse when it was enacted? And have there been any major legal challenges trying to kind of deal with this issue?
So I don't.
This is very interesting. Okay, so I said here, it already feels like this is a very, very valid topic to cover, but that Taylor is trying to shoehorn Ethan into this idea of big corporations who are silencing smaller creators, specifically who are criticizing them. And all of the headlines that she's showing are related to corporations or people trying to use DMCA who do not have ownership of the content they're trying to get removed. It is not the same thing. It is all false equivalences throughout this entire thing.
Don't know that anybody expected the degree and the pervasiveness of abuse that's actually happened. Also because, the law was passed in 1998, and I think folks were still didn't really appreciate.
Okay. I think that was it for that piece. Again, we're talking about scientists and inventors. We're not it's just crazy. So it's pretty clear to me that Taylor went into this interview, again, not with journalistic curiosity, which to me I think is like such a critical piece of any writer's life is the curiosity, right? But there was a clear agenda, and it turns out that that agenda is in complete opposition to the spirit of journalism and also to what is happening in the world of copyright infringement. Because and we see that agenda in the fact that she's had Meredith Rose on, but Meredith doesn't know anything, doesn't follow YouTube closely enough to know anything about those DMCAs happening on YouTube.
It seems like content creators themselves sort of enact copyright claims on each other. Have we seen anything like this before?
Not that I am aware of, but with the caveat that I don't really follow YouTuber communities very
I don't follow YouTuber communities very closely.
Not that I am aware of, but with the caveat that I don't really follow YouTuber communities very closely. We have.
What's it like to have a life, Meredith? So Taylor came in with an agenda.
Obviously instances of, the sort of.
Sorry, that played for my headphones. So Taylor came in with an agenda of questions, and it means she isn't getting questions answered the way she likes, right? So she's hitting these dead ends with Meredith because the questions are they're like leading questions, and Meredith is not familiar with her narrative or what she's looking for. And so there are a couple of times where Meredith is just like, I don't know. I don't follow that at all, right? Meredith, what a dork, not being chronically online. Yeah. I couldn't even find an Instagram account. I wanted to follow Meredith. She's so smart. She is so smart. And Meredith works for the nonprofit, I think it's called Public Knowledge, I believe. public knowledge nonprofit. Y'all should check it out. There's Meredith. She's a senior policy counsel for public knowledge, fighting for creative and connective future for all. So shout out to Meredith. This was a great get by Taylor that she, in my opinion, totally squandered.
YouTuber communities very closely. We have seen, obviously, instances of, you know, the sort of joke is that the DMCA is a keep my name out of your mouth cause of action.
Okay, so this is interesting. They're going to talk about the Omegaverse, which I don't know much about, but they'll kind of explain it, and we can talk about that. Again, it is definitely not what Ethan is doing, like at all. So here it is.
Oops. Of her reading from trope. Okay. Lindsay claimed that really she had the rights to this Omegaverse trope. Lindsay Ellis came in and you know, included clips of her reading from the book, but you know, she makes very substantially long YouTube videos, and these were a small part of it, and mostly she was just poking at the concept that anybody was fighting about this. And then
okay, so Lindsay got a DMCA strike. Shout out Barbara Streisand. Lindsay got a DMCA strike saying that she was infringing on copyright, but it wasn't valid because she was doing transformative content. That the actual bits and pieces she was taking, referencing this other issue, were so small compared to the length of her very long videos, like almost an hour, over an hour. Fair use, right? What Ethan got removed, according to Meredith, who will say it multiple times, if we're basing it on Meredith's standards, and she is like a huge source for this, what Ethan got removed is not, it is within his right to do it. What they were doing was not fair use. It was direct uploads, direct streams of his content without any transformative commentary or criticism. And then they put it up on their platforms. So it was live and then it was uploaded. I believe all of them did it. Maybe I'm wrong. So there's that. Okay, so let's talk about fair use more. This is where it goes into fair use and people losing copyright claims specifically for being a jerk about copyright. And that it comes down to the judge's opinion, right?
In practice, a lot of this comes down to whether a judge does a sniff test on it and thinks, I think this seems valid, or I don't think this seems valid. And a lot of cases, it's, do I think this party's a jerk, or do I think this other party's the jerk? And so you've had some personalities losing copyright cases, sort of.
Oh, personalities like Matt Haas? Personalities like literally Matt Haas losing to Ethan and Hila because what they were doing was transformative and he was being a dick about it. There are several times where Meredith like will bring up different cases, and I gotta wonder if she mentioned the Matt Haas case, since that is like a huge piece of YouTube case law, specifically in her area of expertise of copyright. I wonder if she brought it up. I can't imagine she didn't do some research because unlike Taylor, she's like a real professional about these things. You know? Because she does reference later, she references the copyright lawsuits that Ethan has filed. So she knows about those. So it's hard for me to believe she wouldn't bring up the Ethan and Hila case as an example of fair use, right? It seems like, I mean, if I were Taylor, I would have cut it out. I don't know if it was brought up though. That's just speculation.
Based on the force of, you know, the gut feeling that we may not be able to articulate it, but we really don't like what they did here.
Yeah, I saw somebody posting yesterday, some YouTuber fan that was like, you know, reminder, judges are people. Like, these are human beings.
Okay, that's nothing. Okay, so next up, Meredith talks about the 4-factor test of fair use and the importance of following precedent and the role that precedent plays in fair use. And we know that Ethan and Neela have actually set the precedent for fair use on YouTube. So again, I don't think this is panning out the way Taylor thought it would.
And the actual test for things like fair use are wobbly. You know, it's a 4-factor test. The only way to be sure, though, that something is a fair use is if you're following more or less exactly the pattern that has happened in a case that has happened before. You know,
Precedent of settled case law about something that has happened before. And if the closer you follow it, the more likely you'll be able to see how this problem or how this case will end. And this is like literally the same thing as the Matt Haas case, right? Except in this case, the defendants weren't doing anything transformative. That would be cool, Manola, for Ethan and Meredith to have the convo, but I would like him to leave like Hassan and Taylor and everybody out of it. I think that he shouldn't talk about them at all. Because I think that just gets like wades into the pettiness that, I mean, Taylor's trying to avoid it here, but we all know what this was, right? Like we know what this was. And so, yeah, basically Meredith is saying here without, saying it within context, if you as a streamer didn't do what Ethan and Hila did to their video on Matt Haas, you're probably fucked. Because precedent is not on your side. It is not on your side. All right, next up. We have more of Taylor's agenda-based questions getting shut down. This one is specifically about anti-SLAPP, which I've seen a lot of the leftists talking about as a reasonable argument against Ethan, and that they're going to use that to get these cases thrown out, these lawsuits thrown out.
This time.
Have you ever seen a successful sort of anti-SLAPP claim in terms of copyright law?
I have.
First, anti-SLAPP is, just so y'all know, it's the SLAPP is a legal term for using the legal system basically to intimidate people out of criticizing you. I think it was, did they use it? Did Matt Haas try to slap them? I don't remember. But basically anti-SLAPP means that the defendants could fight back saying, this is just them trying to intimidate me. What I was doing was fair use. And they're just using the legal system and their power and their money to intimidate me out of talking about them. Okay? So that's what SLAPP, an anti-SLAPP is, and that's what she's talking about here.
Time.
Have you ever seen a successful sort of anti-SLAPP claim in terms of copyright law?
I have not, actually. Again, they tend to come up more in defamation, but I have not seen anti-SLAPP used in the copyright context.
Yeah. So the expert, one of the biggest experts in copyright law, has never seen anti-SLAPP used in a copyright case because it is mostly used in defamation. And she's not even saying that it hasn't been used successfully. She's saying it hasn't been used at all. She is not familiar with cases of copyright infringement being used, or anti-SLAPP being used to combat copyright infringement lawsuits. And here's why.
The copyright cases that tend to get litigated for longer and tend to, sort of make their way up to circuit courts tend to be more sympathetic cases, frankly. And so there's a lot more of a trail on that. So there was a famous case, Google v. Garcia, which had to do with a woman who looking
this is less important.
YouTube, and
this is basically about a woman who did an audition for something, and then her voice and her image were used in ways that she didn't agree with. But this second part here is the part that Taylor's probably not going to like.
it was that she was saying. So they attempted to use the performance, and I didn't to happen. And, we ended up, I believe it was at the Ninth Circuit, where they finally said, like, this sucks, but this is not the cause of action you need to use to deal with this. So we tend to see it more in situations like that, but I am not aware of a situation where copyright and anti-SLAPP have really collided. And that's partly because it's a federal case, so it always goes through federal courts, and anti-SLAPP are state level. There's actually...
So the two are actually right now kind of incompatible, because all copyright suits are federal and go through the federal chain of lawsuits. Anti-SLAPP is state to state. Every state has their own rules, their own criteria for SLAPP. So you don't see them together because they don't really mix. We do not have federal anti-SLAPP statutes.
Actually an open question about whether or not state anti-SLAPP can apply in federal court. I think
it's an open question that it can't, if it's even valid to be used. So the argument that the defense that these streamers are building, if it's involving SLAPP, they are supremely fucked. They're fucked.
The answer is different in different circuit courts, so it depends on where you live. It's a whole complicated morass that, lawyers keep themselves employed.
Another reason we need federal anti-SLAPP. How would a content...
Just to bite Ethan Klein in the ass. Another reason we need anti-SLAPP, so it can be used in copyright infringement cases. Because in Taylor's mind, there is a huge problem of big companies and content creators harassing smaller creators with content strikes, copyright strikes. Which does not, according to this interview, doesn't seem to be panning out. Next up, we have the Hassan cameo at 19 minutes in. The first, but not the only.
I think it's so interesting too, just like the norms that have been set, especially as live streaming has taken off and more.
Oh, there he is. If we're talking about live streaming, you got to show Hassan.
More people, IRL streams, but these reacting streams on Twitch are increasingly popular. And
you can literally see Hassan paying no attention and just watching Meet the Press, copyrighted content. He's not even looking at the screen.
YouTube, where people sort of just react to other people's content or commentate on it. And I guess I'm wondering, have you seen copyright law affect these fan communities and this remix and reaction culture?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Copyright law, and especially fan communities, and
it's not going to be in the way you think, girly.
One of the biggest organizations working on this is the Organization for Transformative Works, and they run Archive of Our Own.
All right, so she talks about Archive of Our Own and the idea of transformative fandom, which, again, there is nothing transformative about what the three defendants were doing, right? Nothing at all.
Talking about Pokemon and Disney and some of these other companies, I think it's so interesting. I've done a bunch of reporting on Skibbity Toilet. I don't know if you're familiar.
My 8-year-old has educated me about Skibbity Toilet.
Taylor doing 8-year-old reporting.
Toilet.
I interviewed the guy who works with the creator and owns all the IP for Skibbity Toilet, and they monetize Skibbity Toilet and sell the merch, develop these games and all these things. And he said actually that they don't really pursue copyright claims. They get really excited when they've always actually really encouraged people to make their own versions of Skibbity Toilet, because it's sort of the way the internet works. The more people are talking about something online, the bigger the brand becomes. And I actually
using Skibbity Toilet as your reasoning here is crazy. First of all, it is a complete false equivalence to Ethan's situation, right? People who are remaking whatever this is, this Skibbity Toilet thing, are fans, not detractors. And from the look of it, they're doing transformative things. And to act like Denims and Frogan and Caseytron were doing Ethan a favor by increasing his brand visibility with their reactions is so weak, Taylor. It's so weak. It wasn't used as, it wasn't a parody, it wasn't an homage, it wasn't criticism, it wasn't commentary. It was literally, implicitly used as a market substitute to take views and revenue from him. They literally said it themselves, right?
Or talking about something online, the bigger the like brand becomes. And I actually do know.
Yeah, Casey Tron and Denims and Frogan are helping H3 grow his brand.
One creator who did make Skibbity Toilet porn. I don't know if it's quite on their radar yet, so I don't know if that's been quite on their. I actually do know one creator who did make Skibbity Toilet porn. I don't know if it's quite on their radar yet, so I don't.
So she knows of a creator who made PORN out of Skibbity Toilet. Why does she know that person? What the fuck?
I don't know if that's been litigated, but I think overwhelmingly he was saying it was actually kids that were fans of Skibbity Toilet and wanted to make their own stuff. So
Taylor Lorenz knows someone, purportedly an adult, who made porn from Skibbity Toilet, something only children watch. What adults would be interested in that porn? Who did he make that for? That feels like some Neverland Ranch shit, right? Like you're making something for a specific audience. This is...
I'm thinking too of these reaction channels where I feel like traditionally people have wanted other creators to react to their content because it sort of elevates the original content. I had a video recently.
Hassan cameo number 2.
To react to their content.
And again, she's saying, wait, why doesn't Ethan just want the content played everywhere to give him more visibility?
Because it sort of elevates the original content. I had a video recently that some big content creators like essentially just watched on their stream, but it made people interested in my channel. And
so here is Taylor literally admitting that the Hassan model of content reaction does not include any kind of transformative commentary. She literally just said that. It was basically him just watching it. And here he is just not fucking paying attention as usual.
Elevates the original content. I had a video recently that some big content creators like essentially just watched on their stream, but it made people interested in my channel and actually really boosted the views. And so I feel like there's this culture of like creators being like, please react to my work. Like, please let me know what you think, please.
Yeah, that's called implied. It's called implied license. And it is something that you can give or not give. Just because you want creators to watch your stuff, you're welcome, by the way, doesn't mean everybody does. Just because you want Hassan to sit there and say nothing and add nothing to your content because you want the boost from his sycophants does not mean that other people do. And it is their right as the owner of that content to have a problem with it. You can choose to give implied license or not. And from here, Taylor goes directly into completely misrepresenting Ethan's point.
Please talk about it on your stream or whatever, just to sort of like get the word out there.
Ethan does not need help getting the word out. And he is within his right to sue people who steal his content. Nothing in this video has shown that he is not within his right to do exactly what he's doing and that he will probably win. Just because you think it's icky because it's happening to your friends. Meanwhile, you're mad that your shit got uploaded on some AI channel, a direct upload, the way that Casey Tron and Frogren and Denims were watching Ethan's content. When it happens to your friends, it should be illegal. And Ethan should be shamed for it. Okay. So now she shows The Economist and this article about Ethan. The only time we see Ethan's name is in this article. I mean, this is the only real direct reaction. And what's interesting about The Economist is there are no authors on any of their articles. And this is the only direct source that Taylor shows. The direct source about Ethan Klein is an article with, conveniently, no author. Because I looked, so we don't know who wrote it. but I wonder if Taylor does.
This case with this big YouTuber suing
This big YouTuber, still no name, plausible deniability.
the smaller YouTubers, you know, he actually has encouraged people to react to his work, but now he's saying, hey, you stole my views. You stole my views and you stole my money because you sort of didn't, like we're talking about, it wasn't transformative enough.
Just completely misrepresenting his point altogether. Doesn't talk about the intentional malice of creating a market substitute, which all three women blatantly said out loud multiple times. Doesn't talk about the fact that this isn't him going back on his word about wanting and allowing people to create content from his content. There are so many H3 clip channels out there. I follow several of them, right? This is not something that Ethan is doing. He is not taking down parody or homage or clip compilations created by people. He is fighting back against three streamers maliciously creating a market substitute in order to not give him views. And I have to wonder, she keeps leaving Ethan's name out of it. And I was wondering when I was watching this, is this because Meredith would recognize his name from the fair use case law and have a different perspective on things? But it turns out Meredith already sides with him because the law is on his side, and we'll see a little bit more of that.
And I'm wondering what effects that might have on like commentary culture just generally, because I feel like how can you know how much commentary you're going to have on a piece of content until you react to it? I mean,
you fucking watch it first. That's how you know. That's how I knew how much content I was going to have tonight. I watched your video and I took notes so I could properly comment on it. Pre-watching is like an established best practice to avoid getting dinged for copyright infringement because you have time to prepare what you're going to say. Like, fair use lawyers have that as a best practice. They say that's what you should be doing. You should be pre-watching other people's shit before you create your own content about it. Otherwise, you're just watching it. What are you adding? What are you adding? How can you know how much reaction you're going to have until you see it? Literally, that's why you watch it twice, and Meredith agrees.
maybe you'd have to sort of pre-react ahead of time and sort of plan out commentary, make sure you have enough to say. It seems
Yeah, literally exactly that. What is the problem?
kind of sticky.
Yeah.
It's not sticky. It's not sticky. Watch the video first and then go live and have a more intelligent conversation.
And it's definitely doubly sticky when the reaction is being done as a live stream and you may not know in advance.
This is the only time you see his name. The only time you see his name. But let's go back to what Meredith is saying, because she's very, very smart.
Apparently one of the streamers had to get up and take a bathroom break, and apparently that was offensive because she left the stream running while the chair was empty. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know, right? There may not be a lot of there. You know, I always sort of use the example of on one end of reaction videos, you have...
All right, so here's the spectrum, according to this very smart attorney who is, you know, senior counsel for an organization fighting for free speech. Here is her spectrum of content. You tell me which end of the spectrum Frogan, Casey, Tron, and Denham's end on.
And I confess, I really enjoy these as a...
Stream is different than Ethan's video. Okay, one sec. All right, let me see.
Definitely doubly sticky when the reaction is being done as a live stream and you may not know in advance exactly. Or, you know, as apparently one of the streamers had to get up and take a bathroom break.
Ah, I see. Yeah, so she's not aware that there was time to watch Ethan's video first. Unlike when Ethan did it on his live stream to the Content Cop and actually did a pretty good job stopping and making a lot of commentary. But yes, all of them had time to view the video before reacting live to it. They just chose not to.
One end of reaction videos you have, and I confess, I really enjoy these as an aging millennial, younger Gen Z reacting to whatever pop hits were, you know, popular when I was in high school, where it's just, you know, a guy in the corner kind of bopping along to what.
So that's one side. One side is adding little to no commentary, right? Just bopping along.
Ever. I still enjoy those. And on the other end, you have Dustin Pointer, who's the red flag, green flag
Love this
guy,
guy.
who will take videos of people and their relationship dynamics and race across the field with a giant red or green flag and sort of dunk on people as necessary. It's hard to predict exactly how folks are going to react to this.
So on one end, you have people sitting there just watching something. The other end, you have someone taking content and adding humor and other video and, you know, surprising elements, right? Reacting, commenting on it, critiquing the people in the video. Which end are Denims and Casey Tron and Frogan on? The first or the second? Ethan is a humble legend who even apologized during the debate. That's true. Okay.
But I think the sort of takeaways from it from a lawyer perspective is more commentary is better. Maybe
More commentary is better. You're wrong, Taylor.
pre-record it, maybe live reacting, isn't it? And also,
Maybe live reacting to it, isn't it?
you know, something maybe to avoid is saying things like, watch my reaction video as the ethical way to not give ad revenue to the original, which does actually start running into copyright law rationale around fair use. You know,
They literally shouldn't do exactly what Denims and Casey Tron and Frogan did. According to Meredith Rose, JD, senior counsel at Public Knowledge. I'm shocked that Taylor left this in. Here we go. Yeah. Based. 100% based, Meredith. Weredith woes. Yeah, exactly, Alex. I am shocked she didn't cut it out. Let's watch it again.
record it, maybe live reacting, isn't it? And also, you know, something maybe to avoid is saying things like, watch my reaction video as the ethical way to not give ad revenue to the original, which does actually start running into copyright law rationale around fair use. You know, when you've accidentally touched directly on the fourth factor of fair use, you know, maybe you want to avoid doing that.
Maybe you want to avoid doing that because you are actively violating one of the 4 pillars of fair use. Directly references the ethical point made by the streamers who say that you can ethically watch the video with me. Here's my my ethical market substitute, right? Directly references that. So clearly she is familiar with the lawsuit, or maybe she's just read some articles. And she doesn't agree. She doesn't agree with Taylor and the streamers that they have a case, because their theory is it's baseless intimidation, right? It's SLAPP. Meredith says, no, it's directly touching one of 4 principles of fair use. Wait, does Meredith know about Ethan's lawsuit against the girls? It does seem like it. In this clip, it does seem like it, right? Because she directly references what they did.
Live reacting, isn't it? And also, you know, something maybe to avoid is saying things like, watch my reaction video as the ethical way to not give ad revenue to the original, which does actually start running into copyright law rationale around fair use. You know, when you've accidentally touched directly on the fourth factor of fair use, you know, maybe you want to avoid doing that.
I mean, so literally, ow. So she literally brought up the main point that Ethan is using. And I genuinely cannot believe that Taylor left this in. I mean, maybe that is a credit to her journalism, her journalistic integrity, to leave in that huge fucking L. You literally just showed probably one of like the leading experts on copyright, who you brought on in an appeal to authority. You literally just showed her saying your friends fucked up. And that Ethan most absolutely has a case directly tied to one of the 4 principles of fair use. That it isn't baseless intimidation, that they did something wrong, and that Ethan is within his rights to sue these people, no matter how weird or icky you think it is. What a fucking airball this was.